Hello everyone. We are live. Welcome to Stories from the Earth. I'm here today with Bobbi, aka Smoky Fantastic. And we are going to talk about herbs and tarot and lots of stuff. Bobbi is amazing and does lots of stuff. So I'm really happy to have her here, and super interested to hear how she got into herbs and tarot and music and everything else. I put a bunch of her links in the description of this video. So if you want to check out more Bobbi also has a podcast, which I love. I love your podcast. So I've been listening to it. So yeah. Okay. So let's see. Don't think we have anyone yet joining us, but we all obviously have our tea.
I love your cup.
Oh, thank you. The owls. I don't even remember where I got it from, but it is humongous and good for tea. You know you're an herbalist when you like drink copious amounts of tea, and you have like 4 tea bags. I've got Tulsi and I've got turmeric in here. So
nice. I've got turmeric too, and
nice.
I've got some hibiscus today.
Ooh, seems like a good day for a little citrus.
Yeah.
Kick. All right. So we'll just jump right into it. Hold on 1 second. I say that and I'm like, hold on. Let's see if I can. One. Okay. Ooh. All right. That's just in case we get any comments that don't like pop up for some reason on StreamYard, because it can be weird. I'm on my YouTube as well, although there's a delay. There's a delay on YouTube, so if you're watching this, there may be a delay. But all right, so describe your work with plants and what sparked this interest. How did this start?
How did this all start? Yes. Well, I was working as an environmentalist, teaching people about renewable energy in New York City. I was in a group called the Green Circus. And so it was super fun. We're doing theater, multimedia teaching. So we're teaching.
Wow.
Not only we're teaching people about renewable energy, but also teaching people yoga and meditation, because we thought all those things were going to build solidarity, and also to just connecting people to the earth would build solidarity. And so through that, so here I am working in New York City, and we did the Green Circus about 3-4 years. Ran away with the circus. And, so I'm writing, directing, teaching, and it got really good for us. We got a lot of gigs and stuff like that. But then towards the end of my time in New York City, I kept going, wow, man, I'm working for the earth, but I don't really feel like I know her. And definitely just being in New York City, I spent a lot of time in Prospect Park and a lot of time in Central Park. You're still not really getting your,
right.
You're not able to go as deep as you could. So when I left New York City, I moved back to Pittsburgh, where I lived in the suburbs and had a yard. And for me, like having a yard was like, oh my God, it's like I'm living in the park, But I had asked, I said, okay, well, I asked Mother Nature, I said, I want to go deeper with you and I want to learn more. And so about a year after of living in Pittsburgh, and as you guys may know or may not know, that I'm also a psychic and a medium, right? And so after a year of living in Pittsburgh, I started to grow my own food and to experiment with permaculture and stuff like that. and just fall in love with nature. Just everything about it was just an act of falling in love, like growing sprouts and seeing my sprouts grow pea sprouts. And so I'm like, oh my God, sprouts.
I grew something.
Yeah, they're so cute.
God.
Yeah, just stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it just made me so happy and gave me so much joy, you know. But so so I had that connection that was starting to happen, and then about a year or year and a half into it, one day I walked through my yard and this other plant was growing that I had never seen before, and it said, "Hi, you can eat me," just like that.
Just like that.
I'm like,
Oh.
I've never seen you in the yard before. You look like a weed. You're saying that you can eat me. Okay. And so I go inside and I just kind of like, and I was a little bit like, that plant just said that you can eat me, And so I go inside and I kind of forget about it. And then, and stuff like this happens to me all the time. So that's why I just kind of forget about it. I just have to put it on the side of my brain because there's so many things going on. So then I look online and someone is writing about this invasive plant that it's called otherwise called mustard greens or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Take it out of the yards and this, that, and the other. Oh, you got to get rid of that plant. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's the plant that said that I should eat it. So I did research on it, and it was like, oh yeah, if you eat this, you could get like all the medicine, all the food, all the vitamins are in this plant growing in the yard. So I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And so that was one of my first
Wow.
plant communications that had happened. That was just direct, and what I call very clear telepathic communications. And most plants that I'm speaking with are really clear on the telepathy. And so, yes, that was the first one. And then after that, I started really getting into foraging. And I had a teacher. Her name is Brooke Smokeland, and she's an amazing. We went on wild walks and stuff, and she started introducing me to the plants. And the first plant that she introduced me to was motherwort. And with motherwort, I had an amazing experience. We sat down and we prayed to the plant, and when we prayed to the plant, there was this merging that happened, and she began to speak to me just so very clearly. It was like somebody giving you a big hug, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is amazing." She said, "You're going to meet so many other plant friends, plant families." I'm like, "Okay."
Okay.
I'm like crying though, like, what's going on?
Right.
And so I go, yeah, it's amazing. So I go home and we harvest the plant, and I go home and I started to clean it. And as I'm like, have the leaves in my hand, I started to really feel the vibration of the plant and really feel high. Right. And so I'm like, whoa, this is so different than what I didn't even put in my body yet.
Right.
Right.
That was yeah. All from just, you didn't even like, wow.
Yeah. And so I'm like feeling it. And so that's, so those are the kind of the beginner plants that I started to get involved with in a spiritual way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's so like, I when I started going to herb school, I've heard people were talking, and some people were like, I can speak to plants and everything else. For me, like, the connection is more subtle, like, in that respect. But I do feel like there is some sort of communication happening, between me and the plant. So that's an amazing story. You were really like, it really like came like really strong. Like, you couldn't ignore this thing that was happening to you. They're like, yeah, we're going to talk to you, you know, we're just going to, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I feel like the plant world speaks to me more clearly than the other telepathic communications that I have. The plants are very, very clear with what they have to say and what their intentions are. Whereas other things that I communicate with have either, or more empathic, they have an emotional thing, like animals, domestic animals are more like, dogs, for example, are more empathetic, and they'll tell you, oh, I feel like this or that, because they're living with humans, so they learn to be more empathetic, right? But plants are very sovereign in how they speak. They're very, they know who they are and what they're doing and what they're here for, but they also have, they're very happy to interact. So even if you can't hear them, if you interact with them, they do feel your vibration.
Yeah. I got an echo. I don't know why it's echoing. Can you hear that? No. Okay. So my, I just want to say hello to my friend Heather, who is here watching. Hi, Heather. She says hi. And I just want to say, if anyone else is with us, if you have a question for Bobbi, just put it in bold in the chat, and I'll just, I'm going to save them all to the end, and we'll just ask them. So, but welcome everyone who is here. So I was born in New York. So, and I lived in Brooklyn. My parents are from New York till I was 9, and we moved here. So we lived right, a couple blocks from Prospect Park. I believe that, because we were in Brooklyn. So I know that park, and I can understand, like, it is. I can definitely understand what you're talking about, like how, like, you can get connection there, but you have so much city around you that it's muted. Whereas, like, when you come out here, or my parents moved me like outside of Weaverville, which is we are both in Asheville, so like it's still a very green city. Like, there's still plenty of wonderful, like, greenness here. But when you even go farther out, it's just like, it's like the biggest thing there. It's just this nature, this green, like, it's just like you're in like a different world. I just remember it was very impactful when I moved here, and
wow.
And it was quite a change. But I acclimated really quickly, and then I just fell in love. It was just like, we had this huge, like, oak tree outside, like, my window, and it was humongous. And I remember when it died and we cut it down, by the stump, all this mugwort grew up. And it was just such a bad, like, it felt like that was such like a guardian tree. And like, then the mugwort is just so, like, I love mugwort. I find it very, just a magical plant. But anyways, that was very special. And I was very sad when my parents, like, they moved to Texas to be grandparents, which is very important to them. But I was like, I don't care. I just, I wish I could have, like, the land, like, really, like, I don't know. I really got connected with that piece of land. And but yeah, that is an amazing story of how you came to start studying and working with plants.
Yeah, it's really intuitive. And I love the mugwort too. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's one of the first ones that I started just sort of drawing. And when I found out you can make smudge sticks with it, I was like, oh. And then I started, like, just seeing it everywhere. Of course, once you start knowing where these plants are, you're going to see them everywhere. And
right,
they're just all over. There's, like, a ton of people just grow echinacea in their garden for like an ornamental, but it's just everywhere here in town. And you're just like, and then I was talking to a friend of mine today, and she's like, oh, I have some lung issues, and you know, and I was like, well, and then we were just right by this tall like mullein, and I was like, yeah, you could use this mullein here, you know, and I was like, this is the plant. And anyway,
Yes,
it was just, yeah.
exactly.
So so you were talking about like communicating with plants. And so, and you're mentioning that you did something called plant spirit medicine. So I was wondering if you could like elaborate more about what that is and like what you do with them, or like what it is, and then like is this something like people come to you for, you know, assistance with, or?
Yeah, when it comes to plant spirit medicine, it's really intuitive. I usually am working in that realm when I'm doing fairy stuff. So I do fairy attunements, and the fairy attunements are a way to connect with the earth. And so usually it kind of, you know, comes into play when I'm in the fairy realm doing fairy work.
Okay.
Or, you know, whenever, you know, if I'm working with somebody who is working with the earth, then those beings will come through to work with them. But the way it works is that, or the way I've been synthesizing it right now, is understanding the direct communication from the plant spiritually and the medicine that it has to give you on a spiritual level and the physical level, spiritual, emotional, physical level, right? So it's more multidimensional. So it's not just the physical, right? And also these plants also have a lore. So mugwort, for example. So we may know that it will help you with your dreams or help you become lucid in your dream state. We know what it does for you physically, but it also is a protector plant. So that's why you can make smudges out of it and smudge it around your home, right? Because it's a protector plant. So isn't it interesting that it helps you in your dreams, but it's also a protector plant? So that means that when you're going in your dreams, this plant is protecting you when you're going into the astral plane, which is really important for you not to be wide open, right? So it's kind of like a classroom. So you're going to the astral plane in the mugwort classroom where everything is contained by the mugwort, and you can see what's going on and be awake to what's going on by the mugwort, right? Where if you just went into the astral plane by yourself, you would be not so much guided. Okay, well, I'm not saying that you wouldn't be guided, but here you're guided. Here you're guided, right? By this plant that's going, okay, I'm going to hold space for you here. I'm going to hold sacred space for you here to show you more about yourself. As a lot of the plants do that, right? A lot of plants are going to show you more about yourself and what's going on with you. So it can do that physically if you physically put it in your body with plant spirit communication. Once again, you can merge with the plant without having to put it in your body. And sometimes that's necessary depending on your level of sensitivity to the plant. So somebody might be sensitive enough, or they might be allergic to poison ivy. But yet poison ivy is a protector plant. It protects all the other plants growing underneath it. So it's really important to understand what that plant is. And if you merge with poison ivy without putting it on you, right?
Right.
Then you've got this protector plant helping you. So for example, if you had a creative project that you were working on, but you didn't want to get distracted.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right? So this is not like a scary protection, like I'm scared of people, but this is just a plain old, like, I don't want to be distracted. I'm just working on this thing. I got a lot of distractions. I'm going to merge with the poison ivy so that I can grow what I'm working on underneath it.
Okay. Nice. Okay, that's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And if there are distractions, then it'll feel like I can repel it. Or right? Or won't come near it.
I definitely like that I you know, I'd say with my ADD, I could definitely see the value in working with a plant like that, you know, because some days, you know, I can focus in, and some days it's like everything else, and it's just all over the place. But some days that's good. You want that, you know, you can, you know, that's useful, you know, to be able to sort of go everywhere and, you know, bring everything back together. But some days you're like, I just need to go and do this thing. And but I have, you know, I myself have been working with plants for many years, but I know, this is something I love about the plants, is that they work on multi-dimensions. You know, you have the mind, you have the body, you have this spirit area, but it's not something that I've really dive that deep into. I've got, let's see, I have it with me. Yeah, I've got this book here, which you probably have heard of.
Yes.
The Illustrated Herbiary, and that's what I love about this book, because it does speak a little bit to that, and you have like little rituals and little meditations and stuff that, you know, talks about this other aspect of these plants, you know, and it touches on a tiny bit of the herbal physical, but but I never have, like, really, until you're describing what you're describing, really thought about it like that. And that's fantastic. It's a wonderful way of, and another aspect of healing that plants bring. So that's
right. Yeah. So they bring their spirit and their lore, and it's, you know, it's the same with, you know, when I got the information about poison ivy, it was so interesting. Once again, it's, you know, it's kind of how that world works. When I got that information about poison ivy, I was walking down the street and I saw it, and I'm like, oh, there's poison ivy. And I started to think about, there was a time in my life where I was thinking about boundaries a lot.
mm-hmm.
And I was going, and how to assert healthy boundaries. And then I saw the plants.
You're like,
I was like, oh,
oh.
okay, thank you. And then a friend of mine who does the radio show, for Asheville FM, seriously, like an hour after that, was like, can you talk on, I'm doing a show about poison ivy, can you talk?
Oh my gosh, no way.
Okay, yeah, because I have to do it now because the plant just talked to me. We're just having a convo about boundaries. Let's do it.
Okay, yeah, this is
right. Yeah.
Very, very synchronistic, right? Very yeah. It's just, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
And then I had heard that about poison ivy before, that, like, it is a, you know, it's used as to protect disturbed areas.
Yeah.
But that's as far as, like, I went with it, you know. But, you know, I mean, I think the concept of healthy boundaries is very important. So that's, yeah, very important.
Right.
Yeah, and then it just goes back to, like, even like some of the plants that are considered by a large amount of people not very useful. and especially like poison ivy, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get like a rash. And, and my friend used to get like big blisters, and, some people are very allergic, and you think, whoa, that's not any use. But I think, and I definitely feel like all plants have a use. So,
Yes.
You just don't want to be like, no, that's just a weed, because, even just a flower that looks really pretty to us, has some use for some insect or something. It has some use, even if it's not like a medicinal, but so.
Right, it's all alive.
Yeah.
The earth is alive.
Yeah.
It's multidimensional, and the earth is like the cool thing about it is like a library of information. There's so much information, and you're always learning.
Yes.
Always a new plant. There's always a new something.
There is, because like I went up to my friend Ellen's land where I do most of my well crafting on, and I was gonna get some mugwort to make some infused oils, and she had the mugwort had taken over her garden, so she had which I loved. I was like, this is perfect. I need I don't see the issue here, she's got a rather large garden, so she had tarped it, but there was some mugwort on the side still. So I was like, okay, there's gonna be some mugwort, but when I got there wasn't any. There wasn't any really. It just looked like it, and because of all the rain this year, I got into things a lot later. So anyway, so it just wasn't in the best shape to make oil from, and there wasn't a lot of it. So I was like, okay, but what was on the hill was yarrow, and I hadn't really worked with yarrow before, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get some yarrow, I'm gonna make some oil, I'm gonna dry some. And so I'm like, okay, that's the plant I'm using. I still have some mugwort oil, so it's not like, I've got mugwort smudge sticks from last year, I've got some mugwort, so yeah. And I'm going to just say hi to Sonia. Hello, Sonia. How are you? Thank you for joining us. And Heather says her comment was, oh, fairies, wonderful. Heather loves fairies. So just on that note. Woo. And then Sonia says, we have one plant that we call coffee plant. It stinks and it is invasive and it can kill livestock if they eat it. I can't find any use for it. Well, there are some that are definitely, but I'm sure there is still a use.
Yeah, it could be something that's more of a spiritual use. You could research the plant and ask, what is the magical meaning behind this plant? And you could find out the story that goes with the plant, because it might help you in some aspect of your life, or you might be able to use it. There's always a reason why the plants that grow around you are growing around you.
Yeah.
And so it's good to kind of investigate and find out who your plant neighbors are and why they're there and who they are.
I agree. If you can, Sonia, just to get some more research, and sometimes I would see if you can find out the Latin name for the plant, because it's probably a common name, and that would probably help you with more information if possible. I think we're still sort of at the beginning of some of this research, and I know that there's a lot more that has been done in other countries. Our country is, doesn't do a lot of it, and you could possibly look up, if you want to look up studies, if you can find the Latin name of the plant, then look up studies. You can go to PubMed, and they have all of the studies that have been done in all the countries on pretty much like the internal use of the plant. So anyway, I digress, but so then maybe that's some more ideas for you. When I was in Texas visiting my parents, there was a ton of cleavers. So, and it's in Texas, has a spring. I was in there for the spring, so I found some chickweed and cleavers, and so I was thinking, maybe people in Texas need some lymph action going on, and but that was my thought that I kept thinking, because some of these plants that grow in more wetter climates were there, even in Texas, in the desert. So
yeah. Wow, it's interesting. Yeah, I really love the yarrow. I love all the plants that grow through the cracks.
Yeah.
If you see them on the street and they're growing through the cracks of the pavement, they're so strong, and they just take over. They're like, we don't care if we put concrete down. We're gonna just grow through that.
Yeah, like the dandelions and the. I mean, there's mugwort is one of them. Dandelions. Mullein.
I saw that growing through the pavement.
Everywhere. Yeah. Sonia says, I've been trying to get some information. Okay, well, if I find out any information, I will let you know as well. So, because I have not heard about that. I've not heard of that plant, but yeah, we'll keep trying. It's probably out there somewhere, but some of them are harder to find. Some of the less common ones, or the less because I think she's not here in our area, so. And I remember when I have a herbal book club, and we were doing book club, and someone's like, "What is this plant?" It was a bush that livestock used. They ate it, right? They used it. It was a sheep, and they used it to shelter under, but it didn't grow in this country. So, and she was from Ireland. So she was like, "What is this plant?" And we went on this whole journey, and I was like, "Oh, it doesn't grow here, but cool." So, so you just, I think all the plants grow here because they're so biodiverse, but it's not true. Just most of them. All right. So I was going to ask how you learned plant spirit medicine, but I think you might have sort of answered that question. And it's just by the plants talking to you?
Yep. I learned plant spirit medicine by the plants talking to me. Basically, they tell me who they are, what they're doing. They're very clear teachers. Yeah, and it's an ongoing, process.
Yeah.
The rewards are that I get to connect to the earth more. It's a confirmation that we're all connected constantly. And also too, I really feel like ancient people, I feel like everyone has the ability to do this on some level. But I feel like ancient people must have did this. How else would they know what plants to eat and what plants for medicine? Unless the plants were communicating with them.
Or they did a lot of awful trial and error. So I like the idea of plants communicating better than, this person didn't get sick from this plant, so we're not going to use it.
Right.
So yeah, and it's just definitely I feel like when I'm working with plants, I feel like it's just not anything new. It feels very old.
Yeah.
So it's just like, hey, this seems very old, very familiar, and on some level, which is something that I really love about herbs and working with them. So, yeah.
I have someone here saying, "Where's the wheatgrass?"
Where's the what?
Wheatgrass.
Where's the wheatgrass?
Yeah, on my Instagram. I had some wheatgrass this morning. I love wheatgrass. It's very good.
Oh.
It's very good. You have to make sure that that when you eat it, that it's fresh and it's organic, and it won't be so bitter. Usually, it's sweet when
It's
you.
sweet.
Sometimes it can be bitter, and sometimes it's hard on your stomach. That's if it's moldy. If it's like that. Other than that, wheatgrass is it's a cell cleaner and also a cell builder at the same time. So it's very, very good.
I mean, I would agree. For me though, I have like a wheat sensitivity, so it's not right for me. But yeah, definitely, and I um uh yeah, I think it's pretty awesome. So, and I can imagine it's pretty strong because I see those little tiny green shots people have, and it's just like, you know.
I sometimes I could smell wheatgrass, like like a block away. I'm like, ooh, there's wheatgrass, and woo.
Woo, yeah, yeah. But I'm just a fan of that, strong stuff. So
Sometimes you need it. Sometimes you need it. And these days, why not? Do what you can.
yeah, yeah. Cool. Oh, Heather, wheatgrass shots? Question mark. Yeah, we went on a wheatgrass tangent. I don't know. Heather likes to. She's a member of my herbal book club, so we chat a lot. But she loves to make, like herbal, like food / medicine stuff. And she'll every time we come across something like new recipe, she'll make it. And what did we make? We made oh my gosh, I can't remember. Oh no, we really changed the day. I don't know if I can find it. Heather, what did we make? Okay, never mind. I'm going to try to stay on task. All right, let's try to stay focused. Anyway, we made something, and it was an herbal preparation that I've never heard of. It's like honey and oh my gosh. I'm blanking. I'm sorry. Okay. Heather's like, can you eat wheatgrass with some of the same benefits? I don't have a juicer.
It's hard to it's hard to it's hard to eat wheatgrass, but I mean, why not? I put it on a salad. I would.
Oh, it was a switchel. A switchel. That's what we made. SWITCHEL. That was this herbal drink called a switchel. And I was like, I've never heard of that. Heather, what did it have in it? Because I am like totally blanking right now because it smiley face. Let's see. What? Now this one might be hard. So to pick one, you did mention a couple. So what is your favorite herbs to work with? Or like, are you working with something right now specifically that you're really excited about? Or do you have some that you feel like you just always have like an affinity for and have just sort of been with you for a while that you just
Yeah, well, let's see. Yeah, I mean, there's so many plants that I'm working with all the time, and like and just even psychically as you say that, the plants are like, me, talk about me, talk about me, talk about me,
yeah, I know.
But the one that I've taken evening primrose for years, and it's helped me so much as a woman. I remember someone told me to take it. And it took me 5 years before I finally took it. But it changed my life totally because I didn't have my periods were like so short, like just 3 days. They came right on time. I didn't have cramps. I didn't have, um, you know, PMS. Evening primrose. Okay. And I've taken that for years and years. I'm still taking that. It's amazing. It makes your skin look great. Um, and I got tired of having PMS. I also didn't have cramps anymore. So wow,
Wow.
yay, evening primrose. And just like I said, somebody told me to take it. I remember this woman told me to take it because I said, "Oh, I'm having PMS," and she said, "Girl, take the evening primrose."
And you did.
I did 5 years later, but after
Like,
that,
I should take it.
take stuff. People tell me to take stuff. Listen.
Well, it's not like, I mean, we're still very it's still very unusual, I think, for us to think about taking a plant like for medicine. I think for a lot of us, it's still like not, I mean, I feel like it should be the first thing we're grabbing. But like, we still got that because we grew up with the predominantly, you go to the doctor, you take a pill. And maybe not for everyone, because I think people are, maybe more fortunate to grow up and more, have more of an herbal tradition in their family.
Right.
But I think that, I think it's a bit odd for a lot of people. And perhaps, I know for why I did grow up, my mom was always like, I did grow up with, taking echinacea and so I was a little more familiar with the concept. I don't know if this is, so I can see why maybe it took you a bit to decide to do that.
Yeah.
That might not be the reason.
Exactly. And you know what? I totally think that this is one of the reasons why herbalism is so dynamic in changing the world. It is dynamic in creating solidarity, and we need medicine right now. Like, no.
Yeah.
So and the earth is abundant in it. And so this is counterculture to what's going on, especially right now.
Yeah.
It's counterculture. Like, we can't even say, and what's going on with the herbs and say, certain other words that could be very helpful for certain people right now. We can't even say it right now, or we would be, taken off YouTube when we're talking about herbs. So the herbs are so counterculture, but
Yeah.
they're so powerful. They're so dynamic. They're going to be so much in need.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what we're needing right now is earth connection on all levels, to heal our bodies, to heal our souls, to heal each other, to connect to each other. We need this so bad. So it's really important for us to wake up to this, and for people to become to herbalism to become, and it will become so super cool for everybody.
Yeah, I really, I would really love for it to, I mean, so I used to work in the supplement department of a grocery store, and we were always like sort of treated like the weird department, and I mean, it was a health food grocery store, but and I just and I would like for herbalism to be more accepted and more like integrated in a way where like it's because, you know, you have your Western medicine, which is really good if you need like surgery, if you need like someone to look inside you and see what's going on, in a way where we have all these like diagnostic tools. But you need, I feel like where herbalism comes in is all that supportive stuff and all that preventative medicine, so that you won't need the surgery most of the time. You won't get to the point where you have to take the pharmaceutical, but it is also nice that it is there. So I feel like we're missing like a whole important chunk of our healthcare. And I'd love for it to be more mainstream, but not to the detriment of what herbalism is, you know, and I just
Well, I think
really love that.
a lot of it has to do with how we look at where we are with fear, a fear and lack mentality, and that comes from the mentality that we are not enough and we don't have enough, and therefore and we're not worthy of certain things. So, because I've talked to certain herbalists who will not tell certain information because they don't want people eating up all the mugwort or whatever, and it's like you can't
eat all the, I have seen like soccer fields full, like a carpet of mugwort, they just mow it, but it's mugwort. I literally like, oh my gosh, you cannot.
Right, exactly. The earth is abundant and there's so much for us, and we don't even have to have that much medicine or food. When you eat wild food, you only need a little bit, and all of a sudden you're filled up. So it's like you don't need a lot. Like, you know, here in our society, you think you need all of this stuff in order to thrive and survive, and that is a lack mentality. That is group think. That's not sovereign thinking, or thinking, okay, what do I truly need for my body? It's going to be different than what other people need.
Right.
It's going to be just as diverse as all of the plants that we have here. We are just as diverse. And when we are in alignment to what was really truly needed for ourselves, you will see that there is enough. We have enough. There is medicine. So it's just, you know, it's a really interesting, you know, times that we're living in.
Yeah.
And the herbalist, please share your information with people. You're super generous, and we need you.
Well, I mean, part of the reason I'm doing this is sort of trying to like, I feel like, you know, is to have this dialogue with herbalists, and to, you know, to sort of take off some of the mystery and have this conversation about plants, and just include more people in it. You know, and you know, also like there's many ways to be an herbalist. There's many ways to be involved in the plant world and all that stuff. And I just think it's really important, and to have this nice open, like it doesn't need to be closed and gated. It's, you know, it needs to be open for everybody to share, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I can understand why it's closed and gated. It's because people don't know how to act. You know, people don't respect the earth. And, you know, even right now with, you know, the seed sovereignty movement, they're, you know, doing genetic, you know, stuff to the seeds that we have. That's not a respect to the planet. That's like, okay, let's just make this, you know, science. Let's do some science on this and make this how we need it to be, instead of co-creating with what is actually happening.
Right.
So, you know, yeah, I can understand that, but it is the herbalism, is the people who are working with the earth who know how to interact with it, and so that also needs to be taught as well. So it's not just, okay, here are the herbs, but it's, how do we interact with this herb?
Right. How do we interact with the planet? I don't think we're taught that. We're not. I think people, and a lot of people are looking to learn that because they're like, something's going on with how I'm feeling, but I don't quite know. And I'm just sort of reaching out and trying to, you know, see explore what it might be. So Heather says that a switchel is vinegar, water, honey, mint, ginger, and strawberries.
Ooh.
And there's different kinds. There's different recipes. And it was, now I remember, so this is our book we're reading for Herbal Book Club. It's a Weed Wife's Remedy. And then we were reading the mint section. So, and was quite raucous. We had a good time with our friend Mint. So
that sounds really good. That sounds healthy too. What is it again? It's strawberry.
So yeah, it's vinegar, water, honey, mint, ginger, and strawberries. It's the recipe that Heather made, and it's like a nice like cooling summer thing, you know, like, and it looked really delicious. She said it was really yummy, but I thought I had heard of all the herbal preparations and stuff you could make, and no, because this Kiva, I think that's her name. She lives in New Mexico, and she really has she has just some different plants there that we don't have here. So there's a lot. It's been really an interesting read because she has got just a slightly different perspective on herbs and herbalism. The herbs she uses are somewhat different, and so yeah, it's cool. I mean, I like learning about this stuff, and I was just like, whoa, okay. You know, and she uses river mint. I'm like, well, I've never, heard of river mint, but makes sense that there's a mint that grows by the river, and there's so many different mints. And I think the most surprising thing was you think about mint and it's so common, but yet there was so much to dig into on this subject of just this little plant that everybody knows about. So anyway, but it's a good book. If you may have heard of, she does the Medicines for the Earth conference. I believe it's in Durango, Colorado. But I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's really, really cool. So, and I'm usually reading Susan Weed and, from authors who live in more of a plant region that's closer to the ones that I inhabit. So it's just interesting to hear about the desert stuff. Okay, but they're going on about. Oh, so Heather wants to know how you took your evening primrose. Did you use a tincture or a supplement, or what form of evening primrose did you use when you're taking that?
As far as evening primrose goes, I use both. I use the supplements. I also use my friend Eliza Rose, who's amazing. I don't know if you know Eliza.
No.
She just made me this really great. It has evening primrose, motherwort in it, little St. John's wort. So that's in a tincture, and
Okay.
I take that and the supplements.
Okay.
But yeah, if you're a lady, if you're a lady, no, if you're female or I don't know how to say things.
You got the female parts.
Look, if you got female parts, take the evening primrose. Or if you don't, and you know somebody who does, and they're suffering from PMS or cramps and stuff like that, and that's causing, because someone else is suffering can cause you suffering too. So say, hey, babe,
yeah,
evening primrose.
I care about you.
I care about you. I want you to feel good, because when you feel good,
I feel good.
And all it takes is that little plant.
Those little plant.
Beautiful plants, really.
Oh, hello, the crafting weed wife. Hello, welcome. You have missed a bunch, but this usually takes like 24 hours to show back up on YouTube. But it'll be back up tomorrow, and you can watch what you missed. But thanks for joining us.
This will be back up. I'm telling you, I have Instagram here too. This will be back
cool.
on YouTube. Yay!
Yeah, it'll be back up on YouTube. The crafting weed wife says Clary Sage is awesome for female parts too, especially during menopause.
Clary Sage, yes.
I'm familiar with it through the essential oil. But I haven't really worked with it in any other kind of way. So, but I do like the smell. So there's so many plants. There's just so many.
Yes. We love the plants.
So do you have a favorite herbal book, or like a good herbal book that you'd recommend for people who are starting their journey, or just a really good reference that you like to use?
Yeah, the book that I was going to bring up to you guys was the Spirits of Plants. It's by Elliot Cobbin. And so with that plant, it does teach you, that book, books, plants, same thing.
Yeah.
That book teaches you how to merge with plants and how to look at plants in a spiritual way. So
okay.
It's definitely all focused on that. So check that out. And it's a bit shamanic, which we like. So check that out.
It's called The Spirit of Plants.
Spirit of Plants. That was a real inspiration when I started to do plant communication. It was just kind of like a confirmation book because I was already doing all the stuff, but it just kind of had it was a confirmation, and then it also had, he has his own language that he puts.
That's cool.
Together, the synthesis of everything.
Okay. And who is that by again?
Elliot Cohen.
Okay.
Elliot, and the last name is spelled Cowan.
All right. Awesome. So I will put up the link to that in the description, once this has, so it'll be tomorrow. So y'all could check that out. That's really interesting because I don't have any books on that. And it's just something, like I said, it was just some, I was excited to talk to Bobbi about this subject because it's not something that I have dove into. So, I think that would be really, really great way to start. So what inspires your herbalism? What do you get excited about with
I just love the plants. I'm just a fairy, I get excited, and when I see plants growing now, and I just have to say that in the beginning, I was experiencing, when I was a kid, I was experiencing plant communication, but it was so intense for me. And it still is. I'm so sensitive. It's very intense for me. When I go out, butterflies are looking at me in my face and going like that, and probably some of you have experienced this as well. And so when I was a kid, I kind of was scared to come outside.
Oh,
Because I was like, every time I come outside, there's a butterfly or something that's
it's
on
just
me.
so much.
It's just a lot of
Yeah,
activity, and nobody else knows about this except for me.
right. Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah, 'cause of course, when you're young, how do you express as well? Like that might be
yeah,
the language.
yeah. So everyone else is kind of like la 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 la, and I'm kind of like, whoa, did you
Yeah.
see that big bug? Or did you see that thing just happen over there with that plant? You know what I mean? So as I grew up, I started to just not look, you know? So now it's kind of like reawakening and going, oh, okay, yeah, this is cool. And living here, which is kind of like living in Jurassic Park or
It
the
is.
ancient world, and also living in paradise rainforest at the same time. There's constantly new creatures to see, and everything is exciting and inspiring. New plants, new bugs, new like, wow,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm just turned on.
I know. I just go outside and I'm like, ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm always like looking, and even when I'm driving on the highway, I'm like, oh, there's a button over there, and there's a bee over there, and then and it's just yeah.
I was in the car. I'll tell you one quick story, and then I got to rush because I'm about to go teach art class. But I was in the car with my friend, and we were talking about psychic stuff, and we had just met. Okay, so we're in the car, and I'm trying to tell him about myself. He's, tell me about yourself. Tell me about the whole psychic world and stuff like that. And then he goes, "So what's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you?" And he had a Jeep, and so it has open in the top, and we're traveling back from Barnardsville, and this huge dragonfly comes into the car and lands on my knee. And I'm like, oh my God. And it had these green fluorescent eyes. And it's just looking at me. And I'm trying to act normal because I don't really know this person, right? But the whole thing wasn't normal, you know? And I felt like this is definitely something from the fairy world. And I'm looking at it, and this eyes are so fluorescent green. I'm like, oh my God, oh my gosh. And it just stayed there on my knee to the point where I screamed because I just couldn't handle it anymore. Right. So I'm just like, okay, okay. And I'm like, what are you trying to say, fairy world? I'm trying to say hello.
Hello, big time.
Hello, big time, with big fluorescent eyes.
Wow.
Yeah, we live in this beautiful rainforest that has so many magnificent creatures. It's so divine, and yeah, a blessing every time.
Heather says that's because you look like a butterfly.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, so perhaps we can have you on again because we didn't even get to talk about tarot, which is a whole
about tarot.
another awesomeness topic. Bobbi also reads tarot. She's a medium. She does music. She's a DJ. I've got all the links in the description. So please check out all of her links, her podcast, and which is amazing. It's this wonderful flow of conversation, and you just get swept up in it, and it's just wonderful. I can stop listening, yeah, it's one of the best podcasts I've ever heard.
Hey, that's
I really loved it, so maybe we'll have you back to talk about tarot and music or anything else. And I want to thank everyone for joining us on this herbal ramble, talking about herbs, and we will be back. It's pretty much the first and second Tuesday of the month. So we'll be back at 1 p.m. Oh my gosh, when is it? Oh gosh, it's going to be the 18th. So look for that. Yeah. So I hope everyone has an awesome day. And I'll say goodbye. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Oh, Bobbi, I lost you. Uh-oh. Okay, it's just me. Well, I was hoping to. Okay, it's one of those days, y'all. So I'm going to thank everyone for coming again. And I will have information up on who's going to be the next guest. And I'm going to stop rambling because that's what type of day it is. And all right guys.